Coming up in 1 minute on the Jackin Around podcast.
And then I remember, go with me here, because I remember somebody called me from the label and goes, well, Chris was making a video last night.
I don't want to hear it, man.
Because you got to fight with the A&R guy who tried to take your keys or something.
Yeah,
So I read a quote from you. You go, I don't mean to kill people. It just happens.
It's like, that's where it's going. So I can't get out of this song without killing this guy.
And I don't mean to go back to, I know how it feels to have people recite your old shit, but that's one of the best songs I've ever heard.
Right. A lot of people say that, I can't believe that song's about me, man.
There ought to be a sideshow act
for
freaks like me.
Yeah.
I could be the star of the show, put my name on the marquee in a room with a big red button that says danger, do not touch. Mm-hmm. And twice a day, I'd mash it down and you can watch me self-destruct.
Yeah.
Are you like, what is that?
I had a different idea for the song when I started writing it. It was,
the Jackin Around podcast is brought to you by Lone Star Dry Goods, a collection of handcrafted quality goods with a truly unique Americana vibe. Visit the world headquarters in the heart of downtown Abilene, Texas, and Willow Park, Texas, Fort Worth. Visit LoneStarDryGoods.com for more information. Welcome to the Jackin Around podcast, available on your favorite audio platforms and in video on YouTube. For links and info, visit JackinAroundPodcast.com. So, man, what you been? We running?
Yeah, let me get this mic. All right, so.
You don't worry about it, Chris. He's got it.
That's perfect. So it'll kind of get out here if I'm pointing this way or whatever.
Don't even think about it.
Who you been interviewing?
Man, I've gotten to. Do you know Tuff Hedeman?
Nah, I don't guess I do.
He's a bull rider from Stephenville, Texas. He's a 4-time. He was like the Michael Jordan of bull riding.
I think I've heard, especially Tuff. I've heard that.
Tuff Hedeman.
Yeah.
He was like the first bull rider that made it into the mainstream because his name was Tuff. And he lived up to his name. And the funniest part about talking to him was that I go, so your name's Tuff? He goes, yeah, worst fuck. It's like being named Sue.
Yeah. Just the opposite.
Because he was just like,
yeah, well, how tough are you?
Yeah, every day he went to school and he goes, I was a book nerd. I had Coke bottle glasses. I was not cool. I wasn't tough.
Yeah.
And I went to school and got beat up every day.
Yeah. So he lived up to his name.
Yeah. So I got to talk to him about that.
Yeah.
And it was funny because he also said shit. He's a character, just like guys we love.
How old a guy is he?
He's maybe a couple years old. How old are you?
I'm 61.
Okay, so he's your age.
Oh.
I'm 50, almost 51.
He's still riding the rodeo?
Oh, hell no.
Oh.
Now he does like his own little events and shit. Like he's made it happen. So I've been listening to your records, A, for 25 years, but B, the last 4 hours for sure. And it just got me wondering, like, man, I know you come from Kentucky, but where do you come from? Like, how did you learn what this is and what songwriting is and what because man, your writing is
rough.
Man.
Yeah.
No, it's not
rough.
It's not rough.
Rural.
It's not rough, and yes, it is, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's cultured, and it's defined, and it's technical.
Yeah, maybe accidentally, but I didn't do anything technical on purpose.
Did you just read a lot, or did you listen?
I did read a lot, and I always wanted to write songs, and I started playing guitar when I was 15, and listened to a lot of singer-songwriters in the 70s.
Who?
Jackson Brown, John Prine, Gordon Lightfoot, you know. I mean, there were several albums of his, but I remember hearing him before I was ever into albums.
Was it from the radio or was it from your parents?
Yeah, from the radio. Gordon Lightfoot was like, you know, If You Could Read My Mind, and it, you know, even songs like, you know, Neil Diamond songs, you know, Cracklin' Rosie and all that. It had a country sound to it.
So is that where all those melodies that you? Because one of the things about really raw songwriters is that oftentimes there's not a lot of melody. But what I was noticing today for sure is I was like, he's got a melodic sensibility that's like a dude who listened to James Taylor.
Well, I listened to James Taylor and all the singer-songwriters back then, you know. I mean, I probably, the first 45 I ever went out and is that what they call the little
yeah, the little ones.
Little one was the Eagles, Witchy Woman, you know, and that was one of their earlier hits, you know. And then I always heard the Eagles, other than what my brother had, I always heard the Eagles on the radio, you know. And I learned a little bit of picking off of those. My brother brought home a Lyle guitar when I was 15. He worked in a coal mine, and he was 20, I guess, 19, 20. And
he brought home a guitar?
He brought home a Lyle guitar, and the strings were about that high off the frets.
So you got strong fingers.
Yeah, I mean, I stayed up all night playing it. He brought it home, and he was working second shift in the mines. I think he probably, you know, swapped a bag of lid of pot, you know, that's what they called them then, for this or he didn't, or the other guy did, swapped a bag of pot for this old Lyle guitar. He brought that home, and I brought an Ernie Ball book home. Had all the chords.
Had the chords.
And so I just
did
started
it have songs, or did it just have the chords?
It had songs, and it, you know, kind of told you how to play them as you were going through them. You know, Daisy a Day, I think was probably the first song.
What's that?
I learned. It's I'll Give You a Daisy a Day. It was by a guy named Judge Strunk, and it was a hit song. I'll give you a daisy a day, give you a daisy a day, dear. I'll love you until the rivers run still and the four winds, they all blow away, something like that. And
all right.
So I learned to do that just as a waltz, just strumming with my thumb and stuff like that, you know. So, and then I just started getting a little better and a little better, and I'd listen to all these guys, you know, Dan Fogelberg in the 70s, you know. I mean,
so you were just a product of the radio. You were just listening to the radio.
No. Dan Fogelberg, see, he had several good records back through the 70s. And I was listening.
Were you a fan when it was Fogelberg and what was the duo he had?
Oh, I don't know. He had one with
a couple like
Tim Weissman. They got together and made a record. But after the 80s, I didn't listen to him that much. I mean, that's when I started hearing his songs on radio. But part of the plan, which is on the album Souvenirs, was a hit in the back in sometime 74. What's that?
Talking about Prime?
No, Dan Fogelberg. He had a hit with the album was called Souvenirs.
Okay.
It wasn't actually but he was, you know, he was a young guy back then, right. and he just really cool, you know. He was from Illinois, but he played all over, but Captured Angel and Souvenirs, and I went back and got one of his real old records from the early 70s, Home Free.
So are you telling me that Dan Fogelberg was a huge influence on you?
Yeah, I'd say he was. I mean, learned a few of his songs, and I mean, there's a lot of people that's been influences on me. I mean, John Prine was
That's what
very
confused me
huge.
because Souvenirs.
Right, the song
Steve Goodman
"Souvenirs,"
and John Prine.
that's a great song, and John Prine said he wrote that song on the way to a show because he was playing like a few nights a week at this club, and he thought he needed to write a new song every week, so he wrote "Souvenirs" driving over there, and then he said when he got there, he was he was convinced that he had written a song that he couldn't play on the guitar, and then he said same old chords that all my rest of my
Isn't that funny,
songs
man?
are.
Like,
yeah.
do you ever do that where you come up with
Oh
a
yeah,
melody
I mean,
and you're like,
I
I
tell
could never
people,
play. This is so brilliant.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, I only know 3 chords, and just different variations of them. But I did that a tribute to Robert Earl at Steamboat, Robert Earl King. And
Yeah, what song did you do?
Undone. And I told him, he was sitting right there in the front row with his wife, and I said, well, I want to apologize to you up front, Robert. I know this song has at least 5 chords in it, but I only know 3. So, yeah.
I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah, so I apologize to you. But, yeah. Yeah, it's a good song. That was the one that I wanted to play when they asked me to do that.
He was one of my original heroes.
Yeah, I mean, I seen him a long time ago. Never heard of him back. It was probably 90s, whenever Steve Earle's first record came out.
89?
I seen
80, 88,
86 or 87, like I think. And him and Robert Earle were on Austin City Limits, and Robert Earle opened for him. And that's when I got on.
Have you ever done Austin City Limits?
No.
You should.
Never been asked.
Isn't that strange, man? I'm sure there's a lot of things.
Well, I don't exactly play ball, I just kind of go do a show. And
okay, let's talk about playing ball then. Because when I was first on a major label, I was on Rising Tide, which was a Universal label.
Yeah.
And you were on Decca.
Yeah.
And when you made Chris Knight, that's what it was called, right?
Yeah.
I remember I had made a record called Living or Dying with Steve Earle and
Ray
Kennedy.
Yeah.
And you made yours with Frank Liddell.
Yeah.
And I remember going, come on. What are we doing? They go, well, hold on. There's a guy who made a record that's similar to what you're doing. Like, whatever. And we want to see what they do with his record and if it works or not.
Yeah.
And
so my record came out before yours?
Right before mine.
Oh, okay.
Because they wouldn't put mine out until they saw what your label did with yours, because we were both kind of guys that it seemed like, well, what do we do with this? Like, and then I remember, go with me here, because I remember somebody called me from the label and goes, well, Chris was making a video last night.
I don't want to hear it, man.
Because I remember going, this does not bode well for me. Because you got to fight with the A&R guy who tried to take your keys or something.
Yeah, it was just a guy that was out there from the label kind of overseeing shit. And he had already made a few comments to me. And I didn't like him anyway. So I'm not going to mention any names. But there's some people that just rub you the wrong way.
It was one of those times.
He was trying to tell me what boots to wear and
how to shave your chin
and all that shit. And, and I'd been around him before, and I was like, I don't like that guy. Just, you know, I should stay away from him. But
I was actually talking to my manager at that time, this woman named Kathy Whitley, who's a fantastic woman and was a great friend of mine, is a great friend of mine. And we were laughing about that because I called her up because I was reciting her lines from It Ain't Easy Being Me and just going, God damn, are you kidding me? And we were laughing about that, how we were waiting to see what would happen with your record. And then we got this word like, oh, well, he beat the shit out of his A&R guy. And I was like, oh, what are we going to do?
yeah. Yeah, I probably should have just, you know.
No, you should have probably done exactly what you did.
I don't know.
I mean, what would have been different?
Yeah. Probably nothing, you know.
You know, I mean, think about
I had a pretty good relationship with Decca, and you know, they put, you know, it was a big machine, you know, and they got my foot in the door.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was.
And they made you and Frank, and who was playing drums on that record?
Chad Cromwell. And then, no, I guess, I think Chad played.
Was Glenn Worf playing bass or?
Glenn Worf and Michael Rose played on about 2 or 3 cuts, and then Glenn Worf and Kenny Greenberg played guitar. So I had the all-star.
You did,
$1 million band.
But
you know.
Those guys were also at that time making 1-2 Buckle My Shoe and John Deere Green, like very different kinds of country music, man. Those guys were they were making those kinds of records too.
Yeah.
And when they made your record, that's what I've always loved about those studio guys is that when they sniff out something that's like, oh, this ain't that.
Yeah.
Then they'll play like we're playing street ball.
Yeah. I've gotten more, I mean, I love that record. You know, it was my first one, but when I listen to it, it's almost like, man, this band's too good for me. And I sound like I'm 13 years old.
It's funny because that's one of the things I thought about when I was driving here today. Because, I mean, I've known you for 25 years, but not really. And so, like, you and I touch base every now and again when we run across each other at shows. But it's interesting because I go, in my mind, I mean, the most impactful thing that happened between you and me was that record of yours. And I was talking to somebody and I go, but I hate it when people just talk about my first or second record.
Well,
that ain't what I do.
I had a copy of your first record, CD. I was at your CD release party.
Oh, you were?
With some Blue Water people.
Oh, wow.
Down there. And, or Decca won.
Yeah.
And, yeah, but I had that and I listened to it. And I tell you another thing, your record, Electric, I thought was excellent. But
thank you, man.
Yeah. I don't know what went on with that, but
it was probably very similar to your record too, because that was 20 years ago for me as well.
Yeah.
And it was just more like we can both give credit to Frank Liddell for letting us be nuts.
Yeah, you're right.
He kept coming into the vocal booth for me and going, "Are you cool with all this?" I was like, "Yeah, more out of tune."
Yeah.
Like more. But what I wanted to tell you was that when I was listening, what's the name of your last record?
Almost Daylight.
Almost Daylight. And when I was listening to that on the drive, it's one of those things where when I turned it on, I was like, this is exactly the same reason why I love the first record. It has nothing to do with production. And the production's fantastic, but it has to do with just the fact that, man, that's why I asked you when we first started talking, like, where the fuck are you from? Where
I grew up, in Western Kentucky and just
Were you raised on a farm?
No, I mean, the first house, well, my dad worked on the rigs for the natural gas, for a natural gas company. And, you know, he moved us up to Logansport, Indiana. That's like the first memories that I have. And then, you know, I remember, you know, every day I was 2 years old, my brothers would take off. We only lived there 2 or 3 months, but that's when I started remembering stuff. And my brothers would take off every day. They were 5 and 7. And
where were they going?
They were just going down to find some friends, you know, that they'd made around there and play ball or whatever. And I remember going to the screen door. It was a big apartment, like a big apartment building or something. I remember going to the screen door and looking down there, and there was a boxer, which I love boxers. Boxers are, you know, about the friendliest dogs around. But I remember looking at him, and he was looking at me. So I, at 2 years old, I decided not to go down there. Finally, one day, you know, my mother was distracted, and I went down the steps and peeked around the corner right after my brothers had left, and they were already gone, and I ran back up the steps. But, you know, that's where the memories started. And then we lived in a house, a little white house with only running water in the house was the kitchen. We lived there for 4 years, you know, till I was 6 years old. And, you know, we had an outhouse. We took a bath outside in the summer, and in the winter we'd be on the back porch, and my mother used to heat up water, you know, to pour into the tub and things like that. And, you know, I mean, that's.
And what year was this?
I come from a big family.
Hold on, what year was this?
Well, it was
60,
when we
65?
lived in that little house. It was 62 probably to
so you were living
65.
So you
66.
were living in a situation that was about 10 or 15 years behind the times.
It could have been. I mean, I didn't know.
You didn't know the
about
difference.
anything else. I mean, all I knew is there was a black and white TV that rolled half the time and was snowy. And my dad really didn't give a shit whether we had a TV or not. He'd go buy a used TV. And,
right.
You know, it just wasn't. He came home from work one weekend because he had been away from home. And I was 4 or 5. My next oldest brother was 7 or 8. And Daddy told us to go get suitcases out of the back of the truck. He was in a Texas gas truck, and it was cattle racks on it. We went out there, and there was 2 ponies in the back of it, and you know, so I mean, he just turned us loose with them ponies, man. We, you know, rode them all over the place. Especially my 2 older brothers, and you know, we had, and then we got another bigger pony. He was half Shetland and half Hackney. So, you know, hell, he didn't show us. He said, go out and
go ride it.
Damn pony and
go figure it out.
Yeah.
That's actually, man, that's pretty amazing. That's an amazing childhood.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way that I lived, you know, till you know, we got a little more modern, you know.
When?
Well, we got a color TV when I was 15. So 75, I guess. My brother that worked in the coal mines and brought the guitar home. He worked second shift, and him and my mother my mother drove a school bus, and they were sitting in the living room watching the TV that was just that had that horizontal roll. And the other channels were all snowy.
I remember that horizontal roll.
Yeah. And he told her, he said, get your coat on. We're we're going to go buy a TV. And he went up there and bought a big, not a great big one, but a console TV about that size, and it was amazing because I couldn't get anybody to come to my house. We lived,
where were you at the time?
We had moved about 2 or 3 miles up the road from the house
in Indiana?
No, the house in Kentucky that had very little plumbing,
That's right.
That we were talking about. And so that was pretty cool, but I couldn't even get anybody, they couldn't come to my house to watch a black and white TV because they all had color TVs. And so, that was pretty cool.
So when you started writing the songs whenever you got that guitar, we all kind of, I guess we all, I know what I did. It's learn how to write songs. I just kind of copied other people first. Didn't even know what I was writing. And then over the course of a song, getting into a chorus, it would change. And I go, oh, that's my song now. Because it's not nearly as good as the one I was copying.
Yeah.
Were you kind of riffing off Gordon Lightfoot? And
I learned some Gordon Lightfoot songs, and I tell you, John Prine, I learned probably 35 or 40.
Okay,
of his songs.
Then who hooked you up with John Prine?
My brother had.
How did he know it? Because John Prine was
hanging out with the guitar pickers and potheads and around there, in the coal miners, who were into all that kind of music. They were, smoking weed and playing all this cool music that I hadn't heard of other than, like the first song that really struck me, I was probably 13, 14, was Black Water by the Doobie Brothers. It had that rustic kind of sound to it and everything. I'm like, man, that's great. So, even before that, I was listening to some John Prine.
Did that just make your brains start on fire, kind
of? Yeah, it did. And it was like, this is great. And then a couple of years later, when I started playing guitar, and my brother had a huge record collection.
Sounds like your brother was pretty big influence.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Dirk.
Kirk?
Dirk. Dirk.
D-I-R-K.
Yeah.
Sounds like he was because you also talk about your brother a lot in songs. Hey, man, are we good with this? You want to shut that door a little bit? That helps a little bit.
Shut up.
Hey, quit the fucking sound check.
That's a new drum. We've never used him before. Never rehearsed.
Oh, really?
Anything, yeah. He's filling in for a couple of shows, but he seems like, good guy. So,
isn't that funny, man? Whenever you have a new drummer, you're like, how's this going to go?
Yeah.
Usually ends up all right.
Yeah, we grabbed your drummer down here several years ago.
Pete Coatney.
Pete, we just hollered at him. I think McAdam knew him and called him up. Does
McAdam play with you a lot?
Oh, yeah, he played a long time. He played with you.
Oh, yeah. He's so good, man.
Hey, he is. He's a good guy. He's...
So what I also want to ask you about... First of all, I've wanted to ask you a bunch of shit for a long time. I'm a huge fan. I
appreciate it.
I think you write songs the way people write fiction stories, like real work.
Well, that's what I tried to do. I thought, this is what I can do. I can't really sit down and type out a novel or a book of short stories.
Well, it's pretty amazing how dense, if you really listen, just how dense your stuff is. It's like, it's hard to digest. It reminds me of when I was a younger man trying to make sense of Townes Van Zandt or make sense of Guy Clark or make sense of John Prine.
Yeah.
Where I go, hold on, start that over again. What the fuck did he just say?
Yeah.
You know? And I wonder if, that's why I wonder, like, I was wondering if your dad was into music, or was he into writing, or was he into books, or?
No, I mean, my dad he was like just a no nonsense kind of guy. He's mellowed out some now. He's 85, 86 now, but he loved music. You know, he listened to Tom T. Hall and George Jones. That was like
Tom T. Hall's a good place to start.
Yeah, and that's what I remember hearing. You know, and I love Tom T.
Ballad
Hall.
of $40, and
yeah.
That's a good place to start if you're going to be a songwriter.
That's right. You know, I remember first thing I remember hearing was Old Dogs and Children on the, you know, and Faster Horses later on and things like that.
Well, who gave you your sense of, like, because I always think that in order to be a songwriter at some level or an artist, like, who gave you your sense of wonder? Was it your mother? The sense that there's a world out there.
No, I kind of had to be drugged out into the world. I mean, when I graduated high school, I just had knee surgery. And
why?
Playing baseball, I twisted my knee cap out of place a couple of times playing baseball. And so my senior year, you know, I mean, I was like fixing to kick ass.
You're a good baseball player.
Well, I was. I barely swing a bat now, but
in high school,
I was, you know, I mean, hitting 390 and
would you have gotten drafted?
7 home runs and things like that, you know, 7, 8. No, I don't know. I mean, maybe if somebody had really got in my face and said, you know, you need to go here, you need to learn to study, and you need to try to at least walk on the baseball field. I did get people contacting my coach when I was a junior, you know, and wanting to, you know, but not in big schools, maybe junior colleges and stuff, wanting me to come and play.
Mm-hmm.
But my senior year, you know, and then the first pitch of the first game, I twisted that knee out of joint. And then so for some reason or other, we went, instead of wearing a brace, we went and got knee surgery, and that was the end of it. I don't think the doctor knew what he was doing. You know, he's almost like he made it up as he went along. You know how they do it now?
He was almost like a songwriter.
They don't even leave a scar anymore.
Right.
And, you know, I got a scar from here, like a big wishbone up here on my knee, you know, so I never could get it back right. And it still bothers me when it rains and when it's damp weather and stuff. But
right.
So I wore a brace. I wore a cast after the surgery, and once I was good to go, I went to work on a grain building crew, and a grain bin building crew.
Right.
And, you know, we built a bunch of grain bins around
How old
home
were you?
and everything. Yeah. But my dad, my mother and father, and my younger brother and younger sister had already moved to Bowling Green. And my dad called me up one day and he said, you know, you need to come up here and take some classes at Western, you know, WKU. And, which is, it's a great school,
yeah.
You know, Western Kentucky University. And why don't you come up here, live at home, and get you a job have a part-time job somewhere at some point and just live at home and take some classes and see how you like it. Well, I did, but I didn't do very well. And I was like, I went home after the first semester. I went back to Webster County in Kentucky. And
why didn't you do well? Were you not?
I had no idea what they were talking about. I might have made pretty good in English or literature or something like that.
Because you're brilliant.
Well, I didn't know how to study. I never cracked a book in high school, period.
Did you ever have to, or did you just not do it?
Most of the teachers liked me, and they let me slide.
They knew
you know?
That's the funny thing, man. Like, you're brilliant. It's obvious you're brilliant.
Well, you know, I mean, my literature teacher, English teacher, I mean, they would make comments to me, you know, about writing. If we had to write a story, they'd give an assignment. So, you know, I guess I had a knack for that. But then after,
I bet you weren't so good at math.
I wasn't. I was terrible. But after I went back after a half semester of working for my brother, and then I went back and finished out the spring semester, and then probably went back for another semester or two, and then still wasn't doing no good. And so I quit again and worked for a year. You know, I worked at a gas station and, you know, pumping gasoline and counting out-of-state plates, you know, selling cigarettes. That's at the Texaco out on the interstate.
They come down to the lake and then they turn back around.
Yeah, but I worked at the Texaco out on the interstate, I-65 in Bowling Green. And then I helped a friend of mine cut firewood and just do this and that around his.
And this is long before you started writing songs?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'd try to write, but I couldn't write. And then I went back to school. After a year, I was shooting basketball in the driveway, and which we never had like a concrete driveway, but we did in Bowling Green in a subdivision, and we, you know, I was shooting basketball, and it just dawned on me that I knew what I wanted to do. So I went back to school and I learned to study.
Hold on. Know. It dawned on you were shooting baskets, and it dawned on you that you knew what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
What was that?
That was just get into. I was already had a bunch of agriculture classes, and then I thought, well, you know, soil science, things like that were real interesting to me, and agronomy, things like that. So I went back and I kind of concentrated everything on like soil conservation and land use and things like that.
So it was not about, I'm going to go hit the road and be a songwriter.
No.
Not even close.
Well, I didn't have any songs. I'd try to write a song and I was like, this ain't no good. But then I to be honest, I mean, I've told this before, when I heard Steve Earle, it was like, I started writing songs and I wrote probably 60 in the next year. You know, none of them were very good, but actually I'd send songs to Nashville and I'd get some good feedback. I actually handwritten notes, just keep writing. I like your style, you know, and things like
from
that.
From publishers, or who'd you send
them to? Yeah, it was
to?
from publishers.
How did you know who to send them to?
Probably through the National Songwriters Association.
Like a book?
It's no, it was actually a thing back then. They had and then they had publishers.
I remember those.
That you could do that and send.
But it wasn't online. It was like a real book.
Right. Well, yeah, I don't know, but I don't know how.
So how old were you when you made your first record?
36, 30. I started in 96.
Crazy. What a blessing, man. What a blessing.
Yeah, I was 26 when I started writing. And
26?
I wrote for 6 years before I ever went to Nashville. And I played.
How did you know that you were any good?
I kind of knew that I had, basically a little bit of an attitude that, at that time I had a good job and I was fine with that, but I just more and more wanted to just go out and play music, and
you knew that when you played. So when you first started playing music, and you'll have to excuse me for being so intrusive, but like it's such a different story than mine. Like, so I'm interested in that way because when you first went out and started playing music in a bar, did people just shut the fuck up and knew to listen to you, or were you playing background music?
No, I mean, I had more trouble. Actually, I had more trouble with club owners than I did with with the crowd, But there got to be a point where I had a steady gig once a week, but it was really hard for me to get used to playing because I never I never played with a band until I went on the road with that.
After the first record?
Yeah, well, other than being in the studio and maybe playing a show with Joe Ely in Nashville at, can't remember the name of the place, but it was
Douglas Corner or something?
No, it was a bigger place. I don't think it's there anymore, but that was pretty good. And then I went on the road, auditioned some guys. Decca throwed some money at me, and we were able to audition guys and have the band in the SIR down there,
and I guarantee you've never had a bad band because there's something like if you never played with a band, then you went to Nashville. Like there's a thing, man, like where musicians know who to play with.
Right.
And they'll play for less if the guy's great. And whatever that is, if you never played with a band and all of a sudden you're like, you've never played with a bad band, probably. You've never played with a band that doesn't know what they're doing because musicians probably flock to you.
I've had trouble with a few of my bands, a few of the guys in my bands and stuff like
personalities aside.
But it was like working it. Basically everybody just kind of got don't talk my ear off and do your job, it's like get the van trailer loaded and I don't give a damn what you do till van call, but you better be there.
You're a truck stop guy. I call people.
Yeah.
Like, how you doing? Good.
Yeah.
I'll answer your question, but you asked me how I was doing. It's good. Oh, good. Like you're like,
yeah,
good.
I know. Yeah, that's I've had a few guys that they just talk too much. It's like, and they won't sit in the front seat. And when I'm driving, so it's like, yeah, I've never fired anybody over there, but I'm like.
Did you ever hang out with Billy Joe Shaver?
Did I ever what?
Hang out with Billy Joe Shaver?
I did. Yeah, we did a few shows together.
I bet y'all got along well.
Yeah, we did. We did. He was cool. It was cool to hang out with him, And as far as hanging out, I might have been in his dressing room. And,
I get it.
Or
I just
talking to him before the show and shaking his hand, on several different occasions,
I just imagine you guys got along well.
Yeah, well, we would at least you know, acknowledge each other any time that we seen them. But yeah,
What about guys like Christopherson? Were you
I never
never met him,
him,
but were you into him?
Yeah.
Sunday Morning Coming Down and
Oh yeah.
those songs, or
Yeah, I mean, I remember having an old Christopherson record, and he's singing "Help Me Make It Through the Night" and
well, I mean,
Sunday
Lord,
Morning Coming Down, the devil,
Silver Tongue Devil.
Silver Tongue Devil, yeah, and things like that. And I just played it. I don't know how old I was. I wasn't that old. But
So I'm wondering. So I've read a quote from you a while back that said, "You don't." You go. I don't mean to kill people. It just happens.
It's like that's where it's going. So I can't get out of the song without killing this guy. Or this person dying, you know.
That cracked me up. You're like, I don't mean to do it, man. Yeah. That's where it goes. But again, when I'm listening to you, I go, there's so much darkness it's not dark like it makes you feel bad. It's just like you said, like there's so much death and there's so much this and so is that something that you're making up, or is it something that you saw?
It's basically, I mean, just you can take just a small part of a story and make a song out of it. I mean, I've even written songs before the event the events happened, but like me and Austin Cunningham wrote Long Black Highway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so and so when I took 3 verses in the chorus home, and I finished the song. And, you know, Austin kind of laughed because he knew somebody was going to die in that song, you know.
I know if he leaves this room, man, someone's going to die.
Yeah, but it's kind of like there was a roofing crew up in Ohio, a construction crew, and they had killed, it's probably over drugs or whatever, money or something like that. But him and another guy in the construction or roofing crew killed a guy. And after 10 years, this guy could not freaking stand it anymore. And he confessed to killing the guy. And I was like, I can't believe I'm freaking reading this, you know. You know what I mean?
It's so good. Like, really, man, you can't confess.
Man, you're ripping my song off. Yeah.
So do you remember a long time ago, it was when I was still staying at the Shoney's Motel in Nashville. So it would have been early 2000s.
Yeah.
Sometime around then. And you drove from Kentucky and we wrote a song in that motel room. And I remember you telling me, and I've told people this, I'm not sure if I'm right, but I've always told this story as if I'm right, is that you drove in your truck and never got out of second gear.
Well, I think that happened on the way down. I remember that happening, and I probably had, you know, just straight manifold. I mean, just straight pipes on that truck.
Like a silver Nissan truck or something, right?
It was maroon. Yeah.
I remember you telling me, man, I never got out of second gear.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, that's some commitment, man.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what I did. I had to have left it in Nashville. I don't know.
Do you remember that song? I do.
Yeah. Yeah. The lights of the stained glass shine down on the river.
On the river and me.
Yeah. I thought it was a good song. I heard you do it. We were live doing a like a in the row
That's
thing
right.
for a radio station.
She
I think there was a time that
don't
you
say
did it.
nothing about me.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
yeah. I always liked that. I mean, you know, I'm always dragging old songs back up and thinking, you know, there's something good about this. I should, you know, just kind of rewrite it a little bit and get the melody where I want it. But that I don't know. That's good. I like that song.
I love that song. It's one of those songs where I'll find it again and I'll go. It's one of those things where you question yourself. You go, "What the fuck?
Yeah,
That's a great song. What are you
Yeah,
doing, you
I know.
idiot?"
Yeah, I've written some of those, and I mean, a lot of times with me, sometimes it's like, well, the guy that wrote it with, I mean, I've written songs with, you know, they're trying to get that next album cut in mainstream Nashville. And I don't know that they particularly take the song seriously because they don't they got a better ear for radio songs
For
than
what's
I
gonna
do. Yeah.
be
And
candy. Do you do that often?
what's up?
Do you do that? Do you find yourself in rooms writing with people that are trying to write hit songs?
Well, I mean,
can't
they just
imagine
write a different style than me. It's like, you know, I mean, I've written a lot of songs with people that, you know, they're good songs and they're going here. And I'm like, man, you know, I really like this song, but I can't sing that. That ain't something that I'm going to sing on a record because it's too commercial. I don't know. I've always had a problem.
I know, man. It's a
I've
curse.
always had a problem with that. You know,
Hey, that sounds too much like a hit song.
no shit. Yeah. But
I was just,
I don't
you know, Kathy Whitley. She
Yeah,
knows you. And we were just talking about that on the way here. She's a manager.
Okay.
We were just talking about that, how she was my manager for a long time, and she would send me songs back, and I'd be like, that sounds too catchy.
Yeah.
She's like, what was your problem? I'm like, I don't know. It just sounded too catchy. I had to ruin it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you got to get yourself in it. It's like, that's what I always had to do when I was writing songs. If I was going to record one, it just had to be something that I would sing, you know.
What's your relationship with, oh man, I'm forgetting his name right now. The guy who's produced a couple of your records.
Is it
50
Gary?
foot pan, a 2-ton anchor. Got me tied down with battleship chains.
Oh, it's Dan Baird.
Dan Baird. Yeah.
Well, I mean, he played on Almost Daylight, but I haven't seen him since.
He just played on the record. He didn't produce. I thought he produced.
No, I tried to get him to produce, but I wanted him in the studio because he was real good about interpreting what I was saying, you know,
man,
to the musicians, because they had no freaking idea what I was saying. You know, I would, you know, I didn't know how to explain it in music terms for a guy that's pretty, you know, a studio guy or even my band guys, you know.
I'm telling you, man, there's some writing on this last record that the way there's a couple songs where you go back and repeat the same line, and I'm sure you probably are unaware of it, maybe, or are you aware of it?
I'm usually aware if I'm like can't find another line, and so
but it's so good, and you'll stop and not have the fourth line, like you'll have a verse with 3 lines and not say the fourth, and then it's technical in a way where I go, does that motherfucker know what he's doing? Like,
I mean, it's like I I don't know where else to go with this, and I think this will work. It's my song. I'll do whatever I want to do with it.
Yeah. Well, it works, man.
Yeah.
It's really captivating because it's jarring. And also in such a, in the kind of songs that we write that are so, ding, 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 ding. They rhyme, not rhyme, rhyme, not rhyme.
Yeah.
That when somebody has the balls to just go, this is what it is.
Yeah.
This is what it is.
Right. I mean, that's what, if I believe in the song, I mean, I was telling you about, if somebody didn't like a song that we wrote or whatever, I'd write a song and I would just tell, whoever I was working with, I said, I'm recording this song. This is a good song. It'll be a hit for me. But see, sometimes they wouldn't get it. They wouldn't get what I was going after or whatever. And I mean, Becky's Bible was one of them, and I said, there's no way that I'm not going to record this song,
And there's no way it's going to change.
Right.
It just is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've got a bunch of songs like that,
I tell you what, one of my favorite songs that I still sing every now and again, just to myself when I'm trying to go to sleep, laying them off down in Kankakee.
Yeah.
Is that Little Victories?
That's, Nothing on Me.
And what's the line? I'm a get it done, SOB.
Yeah, that's let's see. Well, the last three is Bring It On, Get Her Done, Larry the Cable Guy.
It is kind of Larry the Cable Guy, but it's so good.
Get
man.
Her Done,
SOB.
Don't Run, SOB, but I can't get into the first line. I can't remember.
But you ain't got
Hopefully
nothing.
I'll remember tonight.
It's such a great song, man. It's one of those where every time I hear it, I go, God damn it.
Well, I had old Craig Weissman. I had the chorus.
Did Craig Weissman help you write that?
I had the Nothing on Me. Times are tough. They ain't got nothing on me. And then me and him got into writing the song. And Craig, he was all into it. And,
he loves you, I guess.
Well, I mean, we've written several songs together.
Y'all wrote It Ain't Easy Being Me together,
We
right?
did, yeah. Yeah.
Which, by the way, man, and I don't mean to go back to, I know how it feels to have people recite your old shit and say, I love your old shit. And I know that's frustrating, but that's one of the best songs. And I'm talking about from my catalog of like shit that made me want to write.
Yeah.
That's one of the best songs I've ever heard.
Right. A lot of people say that, I can't believe that song's about me, man. You wrote that song.
It ain't even about me. When I hear it, I go, are you kidding me?
I'm talking about people at the shows, and that's talking about me.
There ought to be a sideshow
them.
act,
yeah,
for freaks like me.
Yeah.
I could be the star of the show. Put my name on the marquee.
Yeah, we had a great time.
In a room with a big red button that says "Danger, Do Not Touch," and twice a day, I'd mash it down, and you can watch me self-destruct.
Yeah.
Are you like what is that?
I had a different idea for the song when I started writing it. Was just stay away from,
like, I'm no good.
I guess anything that in the end I'm no good and I don't give a shit. That's what my I started out with there ought to be a town somewhere named for how I feel. I could be the mayor down there and say, welcome to Sorryville. And I took that to Craig and we just got started on it. And
it's the whole yin and yang of that whole song.
Yeah.
It just keeps coming, bam, bam. I could be the mayor down there.
Yeah.
Which is that's a victory. And say, welcome to Sorryville.
Yeah.
Bam.
Yeah. Yeah,
And the whole
you
song, it
messed up,
never
man.
stops, man.
Yeah, we had a real good time writing that, me and Craig, and I mean, Craig's a workhorse.
Yeah, man, but Craig doesn't write that song without you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a fact.
Yeah.
And that's
I've got a short attention span sometimes when I'm co-writing, and but if I know we got a good song going, I'm like, this is good, man. And then I'll take it home with me and mess around with it and go back and write it again. But sometimes they just happen,
So what's your life like now? Like you're here in Houston.
Yeah.
How many gigs a year do you play?
Well, I was doing, I think in 2019, before the COVID thing, I did 106 shows, and then, which is actually a good bit for me, because me and Rick, my manager, we decided, okay, we're going to do 85 to 95 shows.
Is that good for you?
That's good for me. That's all I need.
Nut.
That's all I need, because, you pick and choose. You're not just out playing every shithole in the country.
So here, this is a 200-seater.
Yeah.
Is that what you're playing every night, a 200-seater? Or?
Basically, I play more of those than anything, but I played several festivals this year and did a lot in Eastern Kentucky. They had me over there.
So in Kentucky, are you the hometown boy down good, or?
Well, I mean, there is places where I feel like, I've caught on real good. But I mean, I always say, well, Kentucky's got bluegrass and there's music fans there, but they just, first of all, Kentucky's probably a third of the size of Texas, and people just, they'd rather hole up in the holler or up on the mountainside, than come to a show. But
people love you down here, though.
Yeah, I mean, they do in Kentucky too, but this is a different world as far as live music. Always was.
Yeah.
And they took to me playing down here. So, I mean, there'll be places where I draw a real pretty daggone good crowd,
I mean, I'm pretty much a Texan.
Yeah.
And I know exactly why. Like, I know exactly why people love you. There's just a thing, man. Like, you might as well be from here.
Well, I mean,
but Kentucky's the only other place. Kentucky's the only other republic, right? Kentucky, Virginia.
It's a Commonwealth. And I really don't know what that means, but it's not
that's right.
Actually a state. It's
Virginia and Kentucky.
Kentucky, yeah. That's right.
We got
Scott Miller.
I was about to say, man, yeah. Scott Miller in the Commonwealth.
Yeah, that's where he got that.
Are you buddies with him?
Yeah, we know each other pretty good. We've done some shows. And yeah, he's good. He's a good guy. Old Jason out there, my road manager, he's real tight with Scott.
I miss Scott. I hadn't seen him in a while.
Yeah, I love his music, man.
Dude.
Every now and then I hear a new one or something I hadn't heard before.
It's funny. There's just guys.
Yeah.
You're one of them. Todd Snyder's one of them. Scott Miller's one of them. Where when I hear a song, I go, what?
Yeah. Now, yeah. It's like
what's going on here?
Sometimes you don't even know who the hell it is. And
you don't
then
have
you realize it's somebody that you knew.
You just go, oh, of course that's him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, hey, man, I'll let you go. I appreciate you taking the time and to hang out, man. I know we've been friends for years and years, but we've never gotten to hang out really and bullshit. And so I appreciate you doing it on camera.
I enjoyed it. This was fun,
Yeah, man.
I don't always say that when I get done with an interview.
Neither do
What
I.
was the story about driving from Kentucky to Nashville the second year?
We talked about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he drove in second gear. And I think you left your truck in the Shoney's parking lot.
Yeah, and I probably had it towed to the transmission place or something. I don't remember what
Every time I think
all
about that, I go, in my mind, I go,
Yeah.
just hear
Yeah.
7,000
Coming in
RPMs
there,
for
man.
3 hours.
But I try not to have those problems anymore. I had a Dodge van, 2001, that broke down. Got to breaking down. Just transmission go out, the timing gear go out, break, or something else would happen with it. And we were breaking down. You know where Malvern, Arkansas is, don't you? We broke down there for 2 or 3 days, 1 week, and for a week and a couple of days, and that's a dry
It's a dry county.
That's a dry county. And, so I rented the band a car in Hot Springs.
Yeah.
So they came and got us, and we went and got the car. Me and Chris Clark and maybe Grando came back, and they left. But we did get some beer in Hot Springs because, and then I got back and I found out my bass player had a case of Budweiser in the van the whole time,
Some of the some of the best nights I've ever had on the road was just the exact same thing. Like you break down, transmission goes out in Auburn, Illinois, or
Right.
Auburn, Alabama,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't go anywhere, and you're just like, well, we're fucked.
Yeah.
And then you get a motel room. Well, y'all want to go out?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
end up at some
But
stupid
the
bar.
thing is, there ain't no place to go out in Malvern, and we didn't have no transportation. But yeah, and then so I was like, I ain't doing this no more. I'm not. I'm going to get a decent vehicle, and
Yeah.
and they break down too. But
Yeah, but at least it's a decent vehicle.
yeah, it ain't something that's got 360,000 miles on it. But
That's
I
right.
did drive my last van, Black Ford, for 400,000 miles, and then I replaced
That's
it.
the thing, though, for me to talk to someone like you. It's funny because that's when you go, hey, man, talent counts for something.
Yeah,
I'm
mean,
not going
it's
out in a
like,
fucking beater.
right.
like,
Yeah.
dude, if I'm going to leave the house, I know what I'm bringing to these people.
Yeah,
We're
I
going to get
mean-
there in style.
If we get booked in a shitty motel somewhere, I'm like, no, I'm not staying here. We'll go down the road to the Holiday
We
Inn
ain't riding the
Express.
school bus no more.
Yeah, that's right. I used to we used to play some of the biggest shitholes around and just,
You would just take it up the ass for no reason.
I know.
And
No
now it's like,
reason, and then
no.
now it's like, no, this ain't happening no more.
Let's go, man.
You got a shoulder back?
Yeah, I got a private. Speaking about taking it over the ass.
Take that.
Well, with a lot of money. I'm a high price.
At least you're right.
Stuff